Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name's Monica, and for those who are not new, welcome back. It's great to see you here again. And today I am going to talk about 3 new releases I just read. So the first one that I read was Love Me Today by A.L. Jackson, and this was my first A.L. Jackson book. So this one is small town suspense, touch her and you die, nanny boss, and definitely mutual pining. But he's also a single dad, but it's not his biological kid. This starts off with Paisley accidentally rear-ending Caleb in the grocery store parking lot. Well, he gets very angry with her. She's very chaotic, and actually his nickname for her is Reckless, because she is very, very reckless. She doesn't quite think about consequences to actions, and she's very much a free spirit. Well, she's like no harm, no foul, but he was really angry that she hit him. Anyways, it made her late for this job interview that she was going to teach a little girl how to ride a horse. Well, come to find out, the little girl is Caleb's niece, and he has guardianship over his niece because her mom died very tragically, was murdered, and that's not a spoiler. That was part of the opening. We know that was happening. And here's the thing with this book is he is incredibly grumpy, he's incredibly possessive, and he is very much turned on by Paisley. She doesn't take his crap because he gives it out pretty well. The thing is this is also very suspenseful. He has a really shady past. He's done some pretty bad things. So he's morally gray, and I love a morally gray hero. So that was all, yes. There are times where Paisley was a little too much, but she balanced out Caleb's personality and his character arc. And I loved the way Evelyn was basically the bridge between these two, because Paisley fell in love with Evelyn before she fell in love with Caleb. But then you have this person who's going after Caleb, and Evelyn, he thinks it's someone from his past, and then it all comes to a head, and it's just, be aware there is death of an animal on page. I didn't know that going in. Normally people say that, but yeah, it's towards the end when we find out who's the person who's stalking Caleb and who killed his sister. So yeah, and why he killed his sister. But it was a really, really good time. I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the romance. It was very steamy. It was well worth it. Paisley didn't bother me. I thought she was a little over the top, but that's okay. Again, she balanced out Caleb, and Caleb balanced out her. I think that they worked well together, and I gave this 5 stars, and it was a favorite for June. And if you remember from my May wrap up, I had a really, really difficult time reading in May. But the first book I read, well, the second book, because I read one book before this, which was Stoneheart, and I gave that 5 stars, and it was a favorite. So I had Stoneheart, which is not a new release, so I'm not talking about it, but that was a 5-star favorite. Then I read Love Me Today, which I just mentioned in this video, which is a 5-star favorite. I was like, yay! But then, right when I was finishing this, Crimson River dropped on audiobook early. It's supposed to come out June 15th. I read it, I think today's the 4th. I read it like June 2nd. Like, I ate that one up. That one is Lila Eden's story, where she's starting to feel a little disconnect from her family because all but Mateo has their significant others. And so she's starting to feel like a little left out because they're still wanting to hang out with her. They want to hang out with their significant others for good reason. Obviously, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Anyway, she is pushed out of her cafe for the day because she's been spending a lot of time in her cafe. Well, she goes for this walk, and when she goes to this walk, she goes to on her favorite path, and she goes to the stream, and there's this man there, and he has red hair, and he has a scar on his face, and he goes up to her, and he starts to choke the life out of her. He lets go, and she doesn't know why he lets go, but he lets go, and she survives, and she goes. And she tells her sister-in-law, Winslow, who is the sheriff of the town, and we meet her in her own book, and that's Indigo Ridge, which is book 1 of the series. And they're looking for this guy, and she has this really detailed description of him. Well, in walks Vance from Idaho. He is a disgraced deputy. He did a lot of searching. Search and rescue, that's what it's called. I'm sorry. It's search and rescue for years. He's been looking for this guy for 4 years because he killed his family. Not Vance's family. He killed the guy he's looking for. I can't think of it. Okay, but I can't think of his name, but oh well. He is hiding out in the woods near Quincy. And so Vance comes and was looking for him. And he goes and he meets up with Lila Eden, and they are very attracted to each other. And this is a steamy book. This is like if I had to give a description of this book based upon other Eden books, it was if Indigo Ridge and Jasper Vale had a baby. You get the spice from Jasper Vale, but you get the suspense from Indigo Ridge. This is a spicy book. This is spicier than Indigo Ridge and a lot of the other ones. There was no I don't even remember if there was like a closed door scene. It was open, and it was like you could feel the chemistry. It was so good. The chemistry was so good in this book, and I loved how they worked together, Vance and Lila, and I loved how they stood up for each other, and she let him open up in his own pace, and he protected her when she needed to be protected, but he did not hold her back. When she wanted to go search for this guy, he's like, okay, you can come with me. He did not hold her back. And I loved his reasonings for what he did. They did not break up in a traditional sense, but the way they needed to work through everything, it was more like a step back. But it wasn't even like, they knew going in they had a deadline on their relationship. But you get the HEA because they both realize that they're in love with each other, and then they make it work. And I loved this book, and I'm so glad it dropped early. It was what I needed when I needed it. And after Stoneheart, which was a 5-star read, then Love Me Today, which is a 5-star read, favorite, both were favorites. This one is a favorite 5-star read. Crimson River is probably my favorite in the series so far. And that's saying something, because I really did like Garnet Flats. I know people don't like Garnet Flats. I know, but I did. And I loved Juniper Hill. So yes, definitely a 5-star read. Well worth it. And if you want to go get the audiobook, definitely well worth it. Lucy Rivers and Connor Chris are the narrators, and they did a fantastic job. So 5 stars, favorite, 3 favorites in a row. In the month of June, I feel really good right now. I actually wanted to put Reckless by Elsie Silver and Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels in this video, but I couldn't. I just don't have time. I have a lot going on, and they're coming out at the end of this week, and I need to get this up by Wednesday. So I will talk about those 2 at the end of June, my June wrap up, and I'll let you know what I think about those then. But the last book that I did read that was a new release is Good as Gold by Serena Bowen. This one dropped on June 1st, I do believe. And it was kind of a breeding kink, friends to lover. And I'm not kidding, it's breeding. She wants a baby. This one is Layla and Mateo. And they were best friends when they were younger. They had a mutual friend named Rory. Rory basically said you cannot have her when they were kids. Mateo didn't think he was good enough. He ends up moving away to Colorado from Vermont, and he comes back. He sees Rory in Layla kissing in a window, and he just stays away. Well, fast forward like 20 years later, Rory and Layla are now divorced. Mateo doesn't know this, but he comes back for his brother's wedding, and he's like, oh, you're divorced. Everybody's like, oh, perfect timing. Anyway, so they've always had this thing that they've always wanted each other, they just never told each other. So it was mutual pining from the beginning. And this is definitely friends to lovers. And that it is Breeding King because she wants a baby. She's 35. She's like, I don't want to be a geriatric mother, because after a specific age, you become a geriatric mother. So Layla wants a baby, so she asks Mateo to be the sperm donor. So they get into this relationship where he's going to get her pregnant. But they've always loved each other. And so they can't just do things and not expect to fall in love with each other. That just doesn't happen with them. And again, so it didn't. So what ended up happening is that they spent the summer working together, hanging out, and trying to make a baby. And they fell in love again. I mean, they never really fell out of love, I don't think. I feel like they've always had feelings for each other. They just never acted on it. Now they're acting on it. And then he has to go back to Colorado because he owns a business there. His business partner, and this is not a spoiler, had passed away. So he feels very responsible for his business partner's widow and their 16-year-old daughter. And so he feels like he needs to be in Colorado. Well, come to find out that he really did get Layla pregnant. And Layla's dealing with a lot of stuff, especially with her dad, who's a real he's a piece of work. Anyway, and it's their story and how they get from talking to each other again to their happily ever after with a baby involved. It's not a surprise baby. It is what the story is about, because she felt like she made such bad decisions. She really ruined her life in a specific way, because she could have had Mateo. She just didn't wait. So, but she didn't know she could have Mateo. Anyway, I love this. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a criticism for this particular book. And the reason why is it throws me out every time Serena Bowen does this all the time, where she does third person in the past. So it's like so when we're getting the information with flashbacks, it's in third person. And then we go back to first person for present day. And it feels a little wonky to me. It just does. It's not my favorite way of telling a story. And that's okay. It takes a little bit of time for me to get into it when it does that. So that's probably why I do give some 5 stars to Serena Bowen. This one was a 4.5 stars. This story hit well. If it wasn't for the past, the third person switching to first person, it probably would have been a 5-star, because that just really threw me. It just threw me. But other than that, it is absolutely worth it. So anyway, so those are some of my thoughts on the 3 new releases. And I feel like I have a really great start to the month of June, and I'm hoping it will continue to be like this. Anyway, let me know if you read any of them down below and what you think. And if you have made it this far in my video, please leave me any red emoji since I read Crimson River. And until the next time, my friends, happy reading. Bye.